Welcome to Jakook Are Dating. I hope you're all doing well, Jakook fans. Today I bring you a video full of happiness, tenderness, and surprises because yes, our Jakook is back. And when I say back, I don't mean they're causing trouble, but they're back to share the Jakook interactions we've all been missing with the public. And here, as I always say, it's all about patience. Wait calmly because sooner or later they will bring back the moments we love. Hashtag are you sure? Season 2 isn't just about external adventures, but the internal journeys of these two men. About the courage to face doubts, the warmth that emerges from togetherness, and the old feelings that resurface as they try something new. Viewers don't just watch their journey, they feel it, live it, and get swept up in the dynamics that are so gentle yet intense. As the journey continues, the dynamics between Jimin and Jungkook become increasingly clear, as if every step they take opens a new page of an old story that hasn't been told yet. The show's producers may never have intended to make the atmosphere so emotional, but such is the power of two people who understand each other without many words. They don't have to try hard to look united. Their togetherness happens naturally, flowing like something they've known for years. In one scene that leaves the audience transfixed, Jimin is seen walking a little slower than usual due to fatigue. Without being asked, Jungkook turned his head, noticed his Hyung's steps, and said in a soft tone that he rarely used in front of the camera, "Hyung, do you want to take a break?" Jimin just smiled slightly, pretending to be strong as usual. But Jungkook knew, always knew, that a smile like that meant Jimin was holding back. As they rested on a wooden bench overlooking a beautiful view, the afternoon breeze blew gently, and Jimin sat with his eyes closed. Jungkook, who was sitting next to him, looked at Jimin without saying anything. That gaze couldn't be hidden by the camera. It was the gaze of someone who cared more than just a coworker, more than just an old friend. There was an unspoken sense of belonging, felt in the way Jungkook made sure Jimin was comfortable before leaning back himself. When Jimin realized Jungkook was watching him, he slowly opened his eyes and smiled warmly. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Jimin asked teasingly. Jungkook was surprised, his face flushed slightly, and he quickly looked away and cleared his throat. "No, just making sure Hyung doesn't faint," he replied quickly. Jimin laughed softly, and the sound of his laughter made the previously quiet atmosphere more lively. But there was something else in that laugh, something that made Jungkook look a little nervous even though he was trying to act casual. Towards evening, when the sky turned golden orange, their journey took them to a place filled with small lights. The place looked like something straight out of a romantic movie, a long wooden path, warm yellow lights hanging on the right and left, and the sound of water gurgling from a small river nearby. As soon as Jimin and Jungkook entered the area, they automatically slowed their pace, as if feeling that the atmosphere forced them to be more honest, at least with themselves. "This place is so romantic," Jimin muttered as he stared at the twinkling lights. Jungkook nodded, but then turned to look at Jimin longer, then he looked at the scenery. "It is romantic," he said, then added in a quieter voice, "especially with Hyung." Jimin was silent for a moment, blinking rapidly, before finally letting out a small laugh, a laugh that signaled surprise but also happiness. "You saying things like that makes people misunderstand," he said. But Jungkook just smiled, neither denying nor explaining. The camera captured that moment without trying to simplify it. There was no background music, no dramatic editing. Just the two of them, walking slowly in the dim light, looking at each other, aware of something they didn't acknowledge verbally. And it was precisely that simple sincerity that made the moment feel so powerful. When they arrived at a small bridge, Jimin stopped and leaned both hands on the wooden railing. Jungkook stood beside him, and for a few seconds they were silent. Not an awkward silence, but one full of meaning. Jimin looked down at the water below and said, "It's funny. We've known each other for a long time, but trips like this always feel new." Jungkook turned to him and replied softly, "Because I always see something new in Hyung every time we go out together." Jimin looked down slightly, hiding his emotion, while Jungkook smiled a little, proud that he could touch his Hyung. But what Jungkook didn't know was that his words might have reminded Jimin of many things. Old moments, the togetherness they once took for granted, and feelings he might have buried deep in his heart. As the night wind grew colder, Jungkook silently took off his jacket and draped it over Jimin's shoulders. "You'll catch a cold," he said seriously. Jimin immediately protested, "But then you'll be cold." But Jungkook just shook his head. "I'm strong. You're the one who needs to be taken care of." The words were simple, but they felt like a heavy weight falling on Jimin's heart. There was warmth that didn't just come from Jungkook's jacket, but also from his sincere concern. Their trip may have only lasted a few days, but every moment felt more intense, closer, and more honest than anything they had ever shown before. The audience could feel this change, not because the camera wanted to steer the story, but because every interaction between Jimin and Jungkook had a feeling that couldn't be faked. Something was growing, something that had been there for a long time, but was now beginning to shine again. And just as the episode was about to end, Jimin looked at Jungkook and said softly, "I'm glad you came on this trip, Kook." Jungkook turned his head, smiled slightly, and replied, "I'm glad too, more than you think." Jimin paused for a moment, then nodded slowly, as if those words had touched a part of him that had never been touched before. The audience knew, at that point, that their story had just begun again. A new adventure had indeed begun, but what made everything feel different was the old feeling that had resurfaced, slowly, warmly, and stronger than ever. In a world that often feels like it's spinning too fast, there is something both calming and thrilling about two people who have known each other for so long embarking on a new journey together. Nothing describes it better than Jimin and Jungkook, two names that are like two sides of a coin, always moving side by side, yet still holding small surprises between them. Now, with the arrival of #AreYouSure? Season 2, many things are slowly beginning to reveal themselves. A new adventure has begun, but it is the old feelings that have resurfaced and shaken everything up. Since the first episode was released, viewers immediately felt something different. It wasn't just the show's more intimate, honest, and focused concept on the dynamics between two people, but also the way Jimin and Jungkook looked at each other, talked to each other, and responded to each other. There was a comfort that was too natural to be considered ordinary, but there was also a slight tension that emerged between their laughter and lighthearted banter. This is the kind of interaction that makes viewers pause, hold their breath, and ask themselves, what is really going on between them? Their journey this time brings many unplanned moments. From seemingly simple conversations to minor incidents that force them to work together, everything slowly opens a new chapter that was actually written long ago. Jimin, with his warm smile and his way of always paying attention to small details, often watches Jungkook without Jungkook realizing it. Meanwhile, Jungkook, with his innocent expression that often can't lie, seems to lose focus repeatedly when Jimin is too close.